Hello guys, welcome to another Destiny video, but this one is going to be a little different because I know some of you guys have actually been asking me about my build that I have. So, I'm going to go through this. We're not going to go over my weapons of choice because it's always random, but we're going to be going over my abilities and a lot of the stuff that I have chosen for this build in particular. So, as my Warlock, I use Prismatic, and ever since Prismatic has been a thing, I've always been using it. And we're going to do a breakdown as to what fragments I'm using, what aspects I'm using, and also what exotic class item I'm using as well, because that also plays a lot into Prismatic, as well as my super. So for one, we're going to start off with the super. So I usually go between Needlestorm and Song of Flame. I used to use Needlestorm a lot, but I've grown to love Song of Flame a lot more just because of the roaming super that it is. Nova Bomb is good, but I really would recommend it if you used it with a exotic class item that has Star Eater on it, Spirit of Star Eater, because that would be it's really powerful with it because you can overcharge the super and it does a lot of damage. So for aspects, and we're going to actually go through more examples of this, more specific examples as we go through these different things. So I want to start by loading us into a place that we can demonstrate these things. So I'll see you guys in a second. All right, so here we are in the Dreaming City. So there's one aspect that we're going to go through, or two of them right now that we're going to go through that I use all the time. One of them is Weaver's Call, and the other one is Hellion. So, and these enemies are going to be important for these examples here in a second. So, I'm using Phoenix Dive to bring out some healing, and you could even use a Healing Rift if you want to, but I prefer Phoenix Dive, at least with this build. And what the Spirit or not spirit, what the Weaver's Call does is it says a creature woven from pure strand matter that seeks nearby targets and attacks, dealing damage. And this also says that activate your class ability to weave 3 threadlings and deploy any threadlings you have perched. Targets defeated by strand damage have a chance to generate a perched threadling. So let me demonstrate by doing a Phoenix Dive. So doing a Phoenix Dive not only gives me my threadlings that come to me, and somehow the third one didn't come to me for some reason, but we also developed a Hellion, which this Hellion is a little fun guy that spawns next to you and is used as like a projectile, just with a mind of its own. And it can even, if one enemy is hit enough, if it has enough health, will trigger an ignition, which is pretty cool. So let's go into the more, I guess, more detailed part of the build that I have. And these are the fragments, and I have a lot of them. So, one of these is Facet of Dawn, which says powered melee hits against targets makes you radiant. Powered melee final blows make you and nearby allies radiant. So I could just throw my needle at something and it'll give me radiant. So watch as I do this. As it hits something, it'll give me radiant right there, which will allow me to do more damage. So it's pretty cool. And that's with any melee that hits a target. It doesn't have to be Arcane Needle, but this is just what I use preferably. Same with my Storm Grenade. I like it a lot. Now this is the part where it gets very interesting. So, Facet of Purpose. Picking up an orb of power grants either Amplified, Restoration, Frost Armor, Woven Mail, or Overshield based on the damage type of your equipped super. So it lists all the ones here on the left side. Restoration, you generate health and shields over time, cannot be interrupted by taking damage. Amplified, your movement speed and weapon handling are greatly increased. After sprinting for a short time, your movement speed is further increased. Rapidly defeating targets with arc damage makes you amplified. Overshield. You are armored with a protective barrier of Void Light. Reduces damage taken from combatants. Frost Armor. You are fortified by layers of durable stasis matter, reducing incoming damage. Frost Armor damage resistance grows stronger as you gain additional stacks. And finally, Woven Mail. Your body is encased in a protective mesh of tightly woven strand matter, greatly reducing any incoming non-precision damage. So let's demonstrate some of these real quick. So I'm going to start from left to right. So let's go to Storm Trance, and I'm going to create some orbs. So I have a siphon, a solar siphon that allows me to create orbs of power by killing at least 2 enemies within a short amount of time. Okay, let's try this again. There we go. So orb of power. So I have arc, and that gives me amplified. So it allows me to charge up my speed, and I'm able to go faster. So let's move on to the next one, which is Winter's Wrath, or Stasis Super. So let's do the same thing again, and we'll create an Orb of Power by defeating some enemies. At least 2 or more enemies. So there's another one. And as you can see, I now have Frost Armor on. And it says ×2, which my assumption is if I have more... if I have more orbs, I get more stacks of Frost Armor. Moving on to Song of Flame, we'll grab 2 more orbs, or 1 more orb as well, and demonstrate this one. With this one, which is one of my favorites, you get Restoration, which if your health is low, it'll slowly start regenerating health over time. Moving on to Cataclysm, we can demonstrate that this will give us a Void Overshield. So you can see that blue bar at the top. That gives us Void Overshield. Short amount of time, but it definitely, you need a lot of orbs in order for it to last a little longer. There might be some things that might be able to extend it, but another one of my personal favorites is when you have Needle Storm, because this will give you Woven Mail. So let's go ahead and get another orb. And Woven Mail, which, much like Frost Armor, you take reduced damage, but this one I think is definitely the better of the two. And yeah, it's just really good, especially if you want to play more safer than that. I mean, Restoration's good too, but if you want to have more defense, I guess, if you want to increase more of your resilience, Woven Mail is a good substitute for that if you have low resilience. Or even if you have high resilience, I mean, you'll be not invincible, but you'll be able to tank a lot of damage. So that's like one of my favorites. And the next one is Facet of Defiance, which this one's very interesting. So finishers create a detonation that either jolts, scorches, slows, severs, or makes targets volatile based on the damage type of your equipped super. So much like Facet of Purpose, instead of using orbs of power that correspond with the super you're using, finishers correspond with the super you're using. And it's very interesting. It's just really cool just to demonstrate those things. I'm not going to be demonstrating this in this video, but I will recommend just giving it a try. I just like it because it also gives you a benefit to, what is that? I don't know why it's going down here. It's very annoying. Recovery. Gives you +10 recovery. Now this one's one of my personal favorites. It decreases your discipline by 10, but the purpose that it gives you, what it gives you is really good. Your Void Grenades weaken targets, and your Arc Grenade jolts targets. So a great example that I can provide to you guys is with my Arc Grenade. And this works all the time as long as your grenade is fully charged. Does not matter if it's Void or Arc, it'll always do the same thing as long as there is an enemy about that gets hit by this grenade directly. So there's a bunch of enemies here, so I'm going to go ahead and throw my Arc Grenade. And you can see how they're jolted like that. And just like with the Void Grenade, it'll weaken enemies. It's also good for bosses too, for the weaken Void Grenade, because if you don't want to use any weapon like exotic that weakens targets, such as Buried Bloodline, then, you know, that would be really good to use as a substitute. Also really good for support as well. But even if you jolt targets, that one target will remain jolted as long as they're still alive, and it will still tether to each to targets around it and hit them with the jolting. It's really good. So the next one we're going to go look at is Facet of Protection. So while surrounded by combatants, you are more resistant to incoming damage, while Transcendent, the effect is increased. So it gives you plus 10 strength, and while Transcendent, you take... It's pretty much self-explanatory. It's self-explanatory. It's also similar to what is in the Arc subclass with that protection, because there's a similar fragment that does the same thing. And then finally, we have Facet Awakening. Rapidly defeating targets with super light, with with light or darkness damage or super final blows generates an elemental pickup of the damage matching damage type. And I only use this because it gives me plus 10 resilience, but it actually is pretty good because of all these things here, such as Fire Sprite. A luminous concentration of solar energy. When picked up, Fire Sprites grant grenade energy. Ionic Trace, a bolt of pure arc energy that travels along the ground seeking towards its creator. When picked up, Ionic Traces grant ability energy. Void Breach, a dimensional rupture teeming with void energy. When picked up, Void Breaches grant class ability energy. Stasis Shard, a small shard of stasis matter that can be collected to restore melee energy. And Tangle, a knot of strand matter swirling with potential. Tangles can be shot and destroyed, or picked up and thrown dealing damage. Defeating targets afflicted by any strand debuff will unwind them and create a tangle. I can't find a safe spot to weave these things, but these are very important things. There is one other fragment that I think is also really cool to use every now and again, depending on if you want to switch it up a little bit, is Facet of Generosity, because defeating targets while Transcendent creates orbs of power for your allies, and it can produce a lot of orbs. So, you know, I do recommend that as kind of a substitute to maybe something like Facet of Awakening, or even Facet of Defiance, any one of those. But the rest of these, I think, are really good in what they do for both defense and also for being offensive when it comes to fighting things in PvE. This is mainly a PvE build, I would argue, especially when it comes to Facet of Purpose, because of the Orbs of Power thing. So if you play PvE a lot, this will definitely be a recommendation that I would give to you guys. And look, I'm not saying you have to use this, but what I'm saying is that this works for me, and you guys can use whatever works for you, but this is just something I want to show off since I know some of you have asked about it. But if you guys have any suggestions for, you know, any other Destiny videos, which I do have some planned, or if you guys want to share with me your builds, I would love to hear about them. I'd love to see them if you also make videos on those as well. But I thought I'd share this with you guys, and I hope you did enjoy this. If you did, leave a like. Don't forget to hit subscribe as well. And I'd like to give a shout out to my friend Bear Medley for being a member of the channel. And you can become a member too and have a shout out as well by hitting the join button down below and becoming a member. I've been Savvy, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys. See you later.